$600 million more for education in Wisconsin. $600 million more. Not tied to improved reading, not tied to improved math, not tied to better discipline, not tied to peace in the classroom, not tied to anything, just $600 million more dollars, $300 million of it for the 95% of kids with IEPs who are not developmentally disabled, but rather have behavioral issues. And the other $300 million for whatever, more capacity building and political indoctrination. Will Flanders is standing by on the program. Will, from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Will, I looked it up. Since 2018, the increase in school spending in Wisconsin has been $3.6 billion. And for that, what have we gotten since 2018? What have we gotten for that record amount of increased education spending that we can justify $600 million more dollars for it?
Yeah, the answer is we've only gotten worse outcomes.
Thank you.
It's an interesting day to talk about this because there was a new ranking from Harvard University, which is not some, obviously right-wing research group that had Wisconsin ranked 33rd out of 38 states in terms of achievement change since COVID. So we've gotten worse. The results have, modestly improved since COVID, but we're still way down from where we were. And other states that are spending way less money, as we've discussed before, are doing a far better job at those COVID recovery rates and helping kids get back on track. So we've gotten worse, and there's no reason to think this $600 million more dollars is actually going to make a difference.
So how much money, I don't know if you remember this off the top of your head. I can look it up real quick if I need to. How much money did we add to education during COVID to cover the cost of the I guess, not paying electricity bills because nobody's in the classroom, but we added extra money to school. So how much extra money was supposed to cover the cost of whatever was necessary to not have a decline?
Yeah, so I don't have the full total number, but we did go from about $15,000 per kid to almost $19,000 per kid, $18,592 per student in our most recent year. So several $1,000s per kid of an increase, and if you multiply that out, you can get the total number. That came from referenda, that came from more state spending. It also came from more federal spending. So all these levers were pulled to put more money into the system, only to see achievement really crater to the lowest levels that we've seen in decades in the state.
Several thousand more dollars in less than 10 years. Several thousand, you say. Several thousand per kid. It's not enough. All right, so this backroom deal is supposedly, it's being sold to us. If we take that $600 million, which is coming from a projected surplus, mind you, projected, we don't have it yet, a projected surplus. That $600 million is being sold to us as property tax relief. They're saying it's property tax relief. You'll save $107 on the average home in property tax relief if we take your money and give it to the schools to do absolutely nothing we tell them to do with it.
Yeah, and this is always sort of just a shell game, right? It's as you were talking about before the break, it's where does the money come from? Either you're paying it in your property taxes or you're paying it in the other taxes that we pay in the state and income tax and things like that. So when we do these things and move the money around, all we're really doing is changing the source, and it's coming out of Wisconsin taxpayers' pocketbook, and no matter what. And let's remember one other thing. When you do these buy downs, when we buy down property taxes, a lot of districts see that as an opportunity to go to referendum even more, because then they can make the claim, look, we're holding your property taxes steady, and we're going to be able to add this much more funding. So it's been seen throughout history when we do these buy down things and put more money from the state versus the local government. It's not that taxes are going to go down; it's that a lot of voters will see the opportunity or have the option to vote on even further tax increases, which in many instances, unfortunately, they choose to do.
So this is a one-time infusion of $600 million. This is beyond the last budget. In the last budget, overall increased spending by about 15% in Wisconsin. I'm not getting 15% more government goodness, by the way. But it increased spending radically and it increased education spending. On top of that, we have the 400-year veto, which I still don't think people quite understand. The 400-year veto says that local districts, local government, local school government gets to increase per pupil spending by $325 every single year for the next 400 years. So $325 this year, $650 next year, $975 the year after that. Every year it ratchets up. So nothing that I can see in this backroom deal says they are not going to have the authority to do that, because that authority is in state law. So there's nothing in this piece of legislation that suspends state law.
No, you're absolutely right. We may have mitigated the effect of the 400-year veto for a couple of years here with this infusion of money, but all we've really done is we've kicked the can down the road, and those, as it goes up and snowballs every single year going forward, the amount that's returned in property taxes here will soon be exceeded by the snowballing 400-year veto. Over by a decade from now, it'll sort of overwhelm the entire per pupil amount that we're spending currently, if it keeps snowballing year after year. So we kicked the can down the road from the effects of it, but this remains in state law. So, so far as I know from what we've seen with this legislation, and we'll keep snowballing year after year going forward. So you might get a little bit of a property tax relief here, but it's going to start affecting you again a year or two down the road and keep snowballing from there.
It's one time. But it's just taking money from a different pot. Instead of it being your school district that you can point a finger to and say, you just increased my taxes, it's the state of Wisconsin that's taking over collected tax money. So it's still your money. You're still paying the exact same amount. You're not really getting a break. It's still coming out of your paycheck. It's still expanding government in Wisconsin for a school system that is terrible. 33rd of 38 states that Harvard ranks Wisconsin. We're 33 of 38 on COVID, on improvement after COVID. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Let's go back to that extra $4,000 a year that we're spending on kids. We have fewer kids to educate. There are fewer kids every single year in the Wisconsin schools. Every single year. Just by attrition of the population of children in our schools, you're getting more money per kid. Why can't they do anything with that if money is the answer?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, enrollment continues to decline. We're under 800,000 kids for the first time in many decades, like going back to like the 60s or 70s in terms of enrollment in the state. So if we just keep funding the same, then the amount of money per kid is going to continue to go up over time. Yet, as you've seen with this lawsuit, as you see with, the Democrats are already out there complaining schools are still underfunded with this deal, right? They're all opposing it not because of the tax implications. They're opposing it because this somehow still isn't enough. Yet, and despite that reality, it's always a request for more. There's no number that's going to be sufficient. I don't think you're going to see these school districts drop this lawsuit that they're threatening our full school funding system over this new deal, despite them getting a lot of what they wanted in this deal. So. You don't end the complaints. You don't end the cries for more funding. And despite the fact we're spending more than ever, you'll never stop the cries that it's not enough.
Yeah, and we just have had very recent analysis and good, finally, talking to the teachers who actually are in these classrooms, where you've got, so 300 million of this quote buy down is for special needs kids. Well, 95% of special needs kids aren't the special needs kids people think they are. It's not developmentally disabled kids or kids with physical disabilities that have a difficult time with access. It isn't that. It's kids with IEPs in regular classrooms who have behavioral issues. So $300 million to not change anything, right? Don't change anything. They're still going to be in regular classrooms. They're still going to have their IEPs. They're still going to be causing the disruption. Just $300 million more for that, tied to nothing, tied to absolutely nothing. So nothing changes. The behavior in the classrooms that teachers have been recently complaining about, none of that changes. The discipline problems don't change. Administration, woke, BEP, restorative justice nonsense, none of that changes. No curriculum changes are demanded. Nothing for $600 million, $300 million of which is for behavioral problems for, 16% of the kids in Wisconsin schools. $300 million for them.
That's right, and there is a real danger. We'll see what happens, but we were a state that, because we had lower reimbursement rates than other states, we weren't really incentivizing districts to overdiagnose kids as much as other states were. We were still seeing increases, but we were seeing increases a bit slower than a lot of the rest of the country. Now with this higher reimbursement rate, there is a real chance that we're going to see even more overdiagnosis. And then guess what happens? And the districts come back and say, we're still not getting enough funding for special needs because we need more money to reimburse to meet that 50% threshold going forward.
The lobbyists, which is what they're saying, you get half the reimbursement. The lobbyists were out yesterday saying we want some sufficient. We don't want increases. We want to have every single dime paid for by the state of Wisconsin without any regard to whether or not there's already overdiagnosis of special needs. Because if you take and I looked this up, 95% of kids with IEPs in Wisconsin, I was shocked. So 16% of kids, 14 to 16%, depending on what you're looking at, have an IEP. 95% of them are IEPs based on behavior. 95% are IEPs based on behavior. They're diagnosed, but it's behavior. It's emotional dysregulation. It's other types of behavioral dysregulation. It's ADHD, whatever, but it's diagnosed. That is causing the lion's share of the problems in classrooms, according to the teachers who were just interviewed and turned into a documentary last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you hear what, the underlying thing under the surface there is the kids that can't be dealt with properly, even we have general problems, but the kids with IEPs cannot be dealt with because these behaviors are considered to be a manifestation of their disability. So if we create a system that incentivizes even more diagnosis, then you have even more kids in the classroom that won't be able to be dealt with properly because they'll have this IEP preventing them from facing any sort of consequences for their actions, which guess what that does? Just leads to more realizing they can get away with anything, doing more bad behavior in the classroom, preventing more learning from happening.
Correct. Now, here's the other thing. None of that $300 million for special needs kids was to have set aside classrooms. Okay, your kid's got an IEP. Fine. But your kid is a problem in a general classroom. Most of the 95% we're talking about are in general classrooms. The kids who actually have developmental disabilities or physical limitations, they're getting it's particularly developmental disabilities, they're being educated in separate classrooms. These kids we're talking about here, they're in the general classroom. So nothing in that $300 million says we're going to create, sort of special areas so that we can have specialists who can contend with a host of behavioral issues. They're behavioral. That's not what we're doing. We're just throwing the money there. I'm not sure what it's supposed to do. I'm not sure how it's helping any kids. Nobody is. Nobody cares about it. It's just a way to shovel money that's not theirs to shovel out the door into a political constituency that's called education in Wisconsin. It is a political constituency claiming more of our money every single year, giving us less and less every single year.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's the situation is not going to be helped in any way, by this new funding. It's at the discretion of the districts, I think, from my understanding of how they use this. So, but nothing is sort of earmarked for those kids that are really the ones that are driving up the cost, are those profoundly expensive kids. But yeah, this will just be going sort of general special needs reimbursement, not specific to kids with the most profound disabilities that we really think about.
Nope. And you just set the floor of spending for special needs kids, $300 million higher. So next budget, it's going to add that extra $300 million in. I guarantee it, because you can't, if you don't, it's a cut. And the other $300 million, same thing. So $600 million more in education that sets the new floor of spending, $600 million higher after, again, a $3.6 billion increase in education funding since 2018 and almost $4,000 per kid. This is getting absolutely insane. This should make everybody mad, but you've actually got Republicans out there saying this is a great deal. It's property tax relief, when it makes you just want to smack people. I mean, metaphorically, Will, not literally.
Metaphorically, at least on the air, we'll go with that, yeah.
We'll go with metaphorically. Everybody, if you don't understand the meaning of the word metaphorically, there's this thing called a dictionary. Thank you very much for jumping on the program. Will Flanders, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. We'll be right back.